Now I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the bird breakaway effect somewhere on Instagram, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do this effect for yourselves here in Photoshop. So let's get started. What's happening, guys? My name is Brendan from BeWillCreative.com. You can find me on Instagram at BurnWills to see a little bit more of my work. So today, of course, we're going to be learning about how to do the bird breakaway effect, which is a super popular effect that I see all over Instagram all the time. It's kind of like the dispersion effect, except instead of just sort of random broken pieces, it's actually birds that are breaking away the person in a sense. So to make this tutorial a little bit easier for you guys, I went ahead and I made a couple bird brushes that you guys can go ahead and download over on BeWillCreative.com before we get started, so then you can watch this video and follow along with one of the bird brushes and then make this effect for yourself. So the first thing that you're going to want to do once you bring your image into Photoshop here is I'm just renamed this layer to person, because this is eventually going to be just the person on this layer. So what we essentially want to do here is we want to cut out the person, the silhouette of the person, from the rest of the sky here. And then the breakaway effect is going to be taking place on just this little area here. So we want to be able to affect this area without affecting any of the sky or things like that, because we're just going to be using layer masks and a brush tool to make this effect. So if we don't put them on two separate layers, it's going to make everything a little bit wonky. Now you might be thinking that we have to use a quick selection tool or something like that, but there is an even easier way of cutting out our silhouette here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my channel. So I'm going to go over here right beside my layers tab, there's channels. I'm going to click on that, and now I have 4 individual tabs here. So as you notice, if I click on any of these individual color channels, you see that there's varying contrast between them. So what we want to do is we want to find the color channel has the most contrast between a person and our sky, so then Photoshop can make a really easy selection for us without us having to do a whole lot of work. So just looking through these different channels here, it looks like the blue channel has the most contrast out of the gate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my blue channel and I'm going to drag it down to the new layer icon, and it will make a copy for me, a blue copy, as you see here. So now what I can do with my blue copy selected is I can press Command or Control L, and now it'll bring up my levels dialog box. We can now affect the contrast of this channel and to make a better selection for us. So I'm just going to drag up this bottom slider here, so then pretty much everything with the person and the ground becomes black. And then I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to drag up the opposite slider, and now as you see, my sky goes completely white, and that's exactly what we're wanting. Now in this case, you don't have to worry too much about the clouds, because the dispersion effect that we're going to do today is just going to be taking place sort of in this general area, so we won't have the effect going down around where the clouds are, so we don't have to worry about those. So this is looking good enough for me, and I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. So now we want to make a selection out of this, so we're going to hold Command or Control, click on our blue copy, and as you see, we now have these marching ants all around our image here. Next, we're going to go right over here and click back onto our Layers tab, and from here, we're going to add this selection onto a layer mask. So I'm just going to click down on my layer mask icon, and as you see, I now have a layer mask on my person layer. But obviously, it's the opposite of what we're wanting, so we're going to have to press Command or Control I with our layer mask selected to invert our layer mask to basically flip everything around for us. So remember, we're wanting to keep our sky, but we just want to separate the person from it. So what we can do to quickly get our sky back but on a new layer is we can just duplicate our person layer here. So we can press Command or Control J to duplicate that layer, and then now what we can do, we can click on our layer mask here, and we can just press Command or Control I. Once again, it will invert that layer mask for us. So now as you see, there is a little bit of sky and such that is transparent, and that's just because of our previous selection that we made in channels. So to fix that, we can just grab our brush tool, and then of course we're going to want to paint white onto our layer mask here, and then it will just fill in all those areas for us. And I'm even going to go along by the clouds here, just like this. Perfect. So now as you see here, everything is filled back in, and I'm just going to rename this quickly to sky. So now we have our sky on one layer and our person on another layer. So it looks like it's one image, but we have now separated the two. So now we can go ahead and we can start working on our dispersion effect. What we're going to want to do now is we're just going to want to flip those two layers. We're going to put our sky underneath our person layer, just like this. Since we're wanting the birds to sort of come out of this area, we're going to want to take away a little bit of his silhouette right here. Now we can go ahead, we can click on our person layer mask. We're going to grab our brush tool and we're going to change our brush to one of the bird brushes that you have. I'm just going to click this one right here. Once you've grabbed your bird brush, the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go up to our brush preset editor here. We're just going to want to play around with a few different things so that our birds don't look exactly the same wherever we go. So to just randomize them a bit, I'm going to first go to my brush tip shape. I'm going to change the spacing just a little bit to about 20% here. I'm going to go back to my shape dynamics. I'm going to adjust the size jitter, and then as well I'm going to change the angle jitter by about 15 to 20%. So now when we paint onto our image, it's just going to make things a little bit more randomized. So now once we have adjusted our brush preset so everything's going to be a little bit more randomized, we can zoom in, and with our active color set to black, we can just paint on or paint out a little bit of his silhouette here where our dispersion effect is going to take place. You can play around with the size of your birds and whatnot, but I'm just going to be putting them kind of in this general area like this. So now as you see, we have a bird cutout in our silhouette. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is we want to take this and add birds coming out into the sky. So what we'll have to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new layer, and we're just going to drag this layer underneath our person but above our sky, and I'm just going to call this birds. So with our same brush active, we're going to want to make sure that black is our active color here so it matches the color of our silhouette. We're just going to start with a smaller brush, and we're just going to click around the areas that we have masked out our silhouette, just so this is where the birds are starting to come out, and we're going to do that with a smaller brush. Now we can make our brush a little bit bigger, and we can just randomly click around just in a little bit of a larger size. Now one more time, we're going to make our brush a bit bigger, and then we'll just continue adding these on like that. And then lastly, I'm going to just bring up my brush quite a bit more, and I'm going to add a couple really large birds coming out this way like so. So now as you see, if I just zoom out, we have layered our birds so they start small and get gradually bigger, and they're going in a certain direction that we want them to go. So in this case, I just wanted them all to be swooping up like this. So our image is already looking pretty cool right now, but there is just one little thing that we need to fix up quickly. So if you notice on the areas that we masked out from our person here, the areas of those birds is transparent underneath, which is not what we want. We want to fill that transparent area with the surrounding sky so it doesn't look so weird. So what we're going to have to do first is we're just going to click on our sky layer mask here, and we're going to grab our brush tool, make sure we're painting with white, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to mask back in all of this area on our sky layer. So as you see, if we look at our layer mask, our person is no longer there. Our sky is totally visible. So now what we're going to want to do to bring back those birds coming out from our silhouette here, we're going to grab our clone stamp tool, make sure that our sample is set to current layer, make sure that your thumbnail is clicked here, your image is clicked, not your layer mask. We'll just sample somewhere close by, and we're just going to paint in the birds that we had seemingly disappeared. So we're just adding in sky underneath them. So now if I zoom in, you'll notice that there's no more transparent stuff there. All it is just the sky behind our silhouette now. Now please keep in mind that this effect is only really meant for silhouettes, but regardless, it's a super cool way to add a little bit of flair to a possibly boring silhouette. Now just a final reminder, if you head over to bewillcreative.com, you can go ahead and find the bird brush pack download that I've made for you guys. It just has a couple bird brushes for you that you can use in this exact effect. While you're over on bewillcreative.com, I've also created a short lesson on how you can import these brush packs into your Photoshop program. It's a really short and easy lesson, but then it will get these bird brush packs into your Photoshop program, so then you can start putting this effect to use as soon as possible. Anyways guys, make sure to find me on Instagram at Burnwill so you can see a little bit more of my work, as well as make sure to tag me if you upload any of your images to Instagram. I'd love to see what you guys are creating. Other than that, that is all I have for you for today. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed what you saw today. It really does make a difference. Likewise, if you have any tutorial suggestions, make sure to leave any of your suggestions down in the comments below of this video. Again, my name's Brendan from bewillcreative.com, and I hope to see you back here next time for another new Photoshop tutorial. See you then.